Hello and welcome to Let's Click Photography. Thank you for joining me in the fabulous Peak District National Park. Welcome to Spotlight on Location. Here is what is coming up today. On today's Spotlight, we discover why photographers shouldn't always follow the sat-nav. We hike to a misty sunrise spot. We explore underground. And we head inside some classic foreground. Plus, we chat with Australian photographer Rory Barron, and Florida's Paul Ferrace drops by to share some processing know-how. So for this first episode of Spotlight on Location, we have headed to the Roaches, which is in Staffordshire between Buxton and Leek in the Peak District National Park. Now, one of the things that I spend a lot of time researching before heading to a new location is parking. So we're going to take a look now at where to head for parking if you are heading to the Roaches. If you type the Roaches into your sat-nav, it is likely that it will direct you up the Roaches Road to here, Roaches Gate. This is the most popular route up the Roaches and Hen Cloud, which sits alongside. And it is easy to see why, as it has instant access up and some well-laid pathways. The roadside parking is ample and free, but it does get busy, especially at weekends, being that it is such a great spot to park. But whilst this is a great parking location with easy access up to the Roaches, this isn't where I'd recommend you were to park as a photographer. For that, we're going to head a little bit further up the Roach Road and a spot for parking which will open up so many more locations. As you head further north up the narrow Roaches Road, you will cross two cattle grids between which there is no parking allowed. Occasionally, the gates at the cattle grids are closed, but you can just open them and then reclose as you pass through. Continue heading up the hill until you pass over the second of these cattle grids. And you'll get to here. Now we're at Roach End, which is the other end of the Roaches. And from here you can basically set up shop. You can access everything that the Roaches has to offer. The roadside parking is free, there's no charge for it. It does get busier at weekends as you would expect, but if you get in here early enough for a sunrise or for that golden hour first thing in the morning, you won't find it to be a problem. You can either park here on this lay-by, or there's a little lay-by just around the corner, just past that second cattle grid. So once you're here, park yourself up and get ready for an absolutely fantastic day of photography. So now we know where to park. What's here once we have parked up? Well, there are a lot of shots to get. And one of the classic ones, which we'll get to in a little bit, is right behind me, Roach End Barn. But there's a lot more than just Roach End Barn at Roach End. So let's take a look around the location and see exactly where you should head when you get here. From our parking location, we are now just a stone's throw from the main pathway, up and across the Roaches. Where even just a few meters up, you'll start to open up some amazing views over the surrounding valleys. Although the walk initially starts off easy enough, it does get a bit trickier underfoot. After all, this was once a coral reef, and this pathway passes through the rocks that prove it. A torch is a must as you head up for your sunrise shoot in the dark. And coming up here, pre-sunrise, there's a good chance, especially at this time of year, around autumn, that you might just get the conditions that will help turn a scene like this into a shot like this.
The hike to our sunrise spot takes around 20 to 30 minutes. That, of course, is dependent on your fitness and how heavy your camera bag is.
Eventually, you'll make it to here, which is Doxy Pool, and this makes a great foreground or midground element. And the sun rises just over this side, so the rocks that you can see make some lovely background with the sun rising above them. You get some lovely reflections in the pool behind me. And during the earlier autumn months at the end of summer, some areas just to the left of me here that will bloom with heather. Now, all today's recommendations are based on this being a sunrise location, which it is perfect for, but it will also double up as a sunset location. And if you are coming up here just for the sunset, then you are probably best off parking at the Roaches gate. And also, as you come up past the Roaches gate, you'll come past Ten Cloud, which is about 15 minutes walk that direction, which at sunset can light up nicely. But as I say, this for me is a sunrise location because there is just so much more to shoot, and if you've only got a day, this is the best way to fit it all in. But I've got to get myself back down now, so why don't we head to the other side of the world and Australia, where we'll find out the favourite location of photographer Rory Barron.
My favourite location? It's a good question. I'd say that my favourite location to shoot would probably be Springbrook National Park. It's a national park in the Gold Coast hinterlands, and it's quite a diverse environment. It is a rainforest. It's quite mountainous. It's got some old volcanic rock, which means there's some plateaus, there's some valleys, so you get some great waterfalls there and streams leading down those valleys, and it can create some really rich environment. No matter if you go there on an overcast day or a sunny day, it's great for photography. I've been there on really sunny days for waterfall photography, and you may be thinking, that's not ideal because you want to get longer shutter speeds and get the water flowing. But it's great for that because you have that nice canopy and it's quite a nice cool environment, which is a great break here in Australia from all the hot weather. So I love it for overcast days and really sunny days. Overcast days are great as you can get a really nice ethereal look to the images. And one of my favorite pictures from there was taken on a day where there was really low cloud. And this location in Springbrook National Park was quite high up in a mountain. So with all the low cloud going through the forest, it was like this misty fog and created a really nice feeling to the image. It's one of my favorite that I've taken this year, one of my favorites. So Springbrook National Park, it's great for all the flora, it's great for bird photography, but for me, it's more about the landscapes, the waterfalls, the cliffs, the lookouts, the great large trees that you can find in the rainforest. So for me, it would have to be Springbrook National Park here in southeast Queensland, my favorite location.
Springbrook National Park certainly looks like an amazing location, and thank you to Rory for sharing that with us. Now, Rory has actually asked me to mention that Springbrook National Park is right next to Lamington National Park. The two are kind of intertwined, so much like the Roaches, you get more than one shot for your location. And talking about the Roaches, I am back down at the bottom, back next to our parking spot, which is just over here. So fueled up with a bit of coffee, and we're ready to go on to our next location, which is an actual hidden gem. Now, that gets said a lot, but in this case, it really is hidden. In fact, it's hidden about 50 foot underground, but we can find it. All we need to do is follow the signposts.
Along a dark, long path, through some dark, damp woods, is where the devil scratched the earth. Luds Church is fairly well signposted as you hike for about 30 minutes, but you will still need to keep a good lookout because the staircase down is very easy to miss. When you do find it, you'll be in the once secret hideaway of Robin Hood, where the sun seldom settles, but the tourists flock. 18 metres down, created in gritstone by a giant landslip, Luds Church is in a world of its own and is a perfect spot for some unusual and intimate landscape photography.
So why is it called Luds Church? Well, many hundreds of years ago, the Proto-Protestants, the Lollards, used to hold church services here, illegal church services. And there was a siege, and their leader, who was called Vlata de Ludwig, his daughter was killed during the siege whilst they were holed up in this area. And so it became known, Ludwig, as Luds Church, not for the leader, but to commemorate the daughter who died in the siege.
If you're shooting handheld, you are going to need to ramp up your ISO due to the lack of light down the chasm. A tripod will prove useful, although with a lack of space and a fair few hikers, a travel tripod is recommended.
I think it's pretty fair to say that Luds Church is quite a unique location with a fascinating backstory to boot. It's not the only location that I'd recommend for kind of midday shooting or when the weather really isn't doing it for those wonderful vistas. There's also a woods, Danesbridge Woods, which is just about a mile from here, easily hikeable. It's all downhill. Of course, then on the reverse trip, it's all uphill. But again, that is well worth a visit. Some ancient woodland, perfect for shooting during the less ideal weather conditions that you may find in the Peak District, whatever time of year it is. So next up is our classic composition at sunset. We're going to head to Roach End Barn, but whilst I go and get myself ready for that, why don't you guys go and head across to Florida, home of Paul Ferrace Photography, where Paul will take you through a technique for post-processing and getting rid of that halo effect that we sometimes get in our images when we are shooting into sunsets.
Bringing you a quick editing video today. I'm going to show you how to remove these halos in your landscape photos on the horizons or high contrast areas. So we have an image here I took not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. It's okay, nothing special, but just wanted to use this as an example. So we're just going to go ahead and open image. We are in Photoshop. Alright, so we're going to duplicate just so we have a clean copy. And then we're going to go over here to the clone stamp tool. We're going to make sure our opacity is at 100, flow is at 100, and our mode is in darken. Alright, so all you're going to do, zoom in a little bit, all you're going to do is sample right above the halo and then just paint it on. Sample, paint. Alright, so there you go. You can see the halo is gone. Pretty easy technique. Just use that clone stamp in darken mode and yeah, nice. Did a nice job. You gotta be careful sometimes with more difficult areas, of course, but halo gone. So I hope this tip helps you out. Get rid of those halos in your photos. Real simple editing technique, but makes a big impact on your final image. I appreciate it. This is Paul Ferrace from Florida. Let's head back over to Dave in the Peak District.
Wow, what an awesome technique. Thank you very much for sharing that, Paul. For those of you who don't know Paul, he has an awesome channel, aptly named Paul Ferrace Photography. You can find a link to his channel down in the description below, and his channel is full of awesome tutorials just like that, plus of course some fantastic photography and adventure landscape vlogs. So do pay Paul a visit and hit that subscribe button I know he will appreciate it. Now, we are going to head for the big one. Sunset at Roach End Barn and our classic composition.
There are a few abandoned and derelict buildings at Roach End, but none are quite as photogenic as Roach End Barn. Sitting almost roadside, it's so obvious, it almost becomes easy to miss. But with its position on the hillside, with vistas behind it from south to west to north, it really is a landscape photographer's dream. Yes, there's no doubt that this barn has seen much better days. But even in its dilapidated state, with a caved in roof and worn out walls, it can still hold the key to so many different compositions.
And that is the beauty with this barn. There are so many options of how you could go around shooting it. And because of its location, you can choose how you want the light to look in your shot. There's plenty of options for how you want to capture your light, and that is what makes this a brilliant sunset location. Is that you can have that sun going down over the horizon in your shot if that's what you want. But if you prefer not to have the actual sun in it, then you can choose to go with those pastel colours in a southerly direction without having that bright, harsh light and needing to use techniques like HDR in order to capture it. As with all locations, I'd recommend getting here early. So when you check out what time sunset is due, I would suggest about 90 minutes before that to find your location from the multiple compositions that there are. You may be able to fit in a couple, but be aware that this is a popular spot for photographers. I'm here on a Friday evening and actually have the place to myself. On the occasions that I've shot here before, there were other photographers. I'm always taking up a couple of the positions. So get here early and there's a good chance you'll get the pick of your composition. Okay, one last thing that you really should know about this location is because the sun sets beyond the peaks in the distance, when the light goes, it goes really quickly. And the roads back from here are really quite treacherous. And depending on which way you go, you'll be on a cliff edge. Now, if you're comfortable with driving, it won't be too much of a problem at all. But if you prefer not to do that in the dark, what I would suggest is the second that that light dips over the top there, get yourselves back to the car, which, because of the location, we're only 2 minutes away from. If, however, you are more comfortable with driving, it might be worth hanging around just a little bit longer, because if there is some nice clouds in the sky, chances are you're going to get some reflections off those clouds and they'll go nice and pink. Well, this part of the world for me never gets old. It is truly spectacular. And whether you're here in fantastically sunny conditions with a brilliant sunset, or you're here on a day like today when it is just fog and mist rolling across you, you are still guaranteed to have a fabulous shoot. It is a photographer's paradise, a landscape photographer's paradise. And if you do head here in the next couple of weeks, over the next few months, over the next couple of years, I would love to see your images. So if you pop them on Instagram, please do tag us in them at Let's Click Landscapes. I would love to see what you shoot from this multiple location. Next month, we are going to be heading up to the Lake District National Park to take a look in depth at another one of my favorite locations hidden away in the Lake District National Park. So please do join me on that one. In the meantime, we have lots more on this channel. So I would hope if you have made it this far today, you will show your appreciation for what has been a lot of hard work to put this together. I'll be quite honest with you, and hit that subscribe button just down there. It will truly be appreciated. And please do head over to Rory and Paul's channel as well. We'll have another couple of guest presenters on next month's show, and I will see you over on that one. And in the meantime, I'll see you on some of the other vlogs that will be coming out over the next few weeks. But from me, in the Roaches, in the Peak District National Park, ciao.